This chart shows two very different Indias. The steep upward line tracks the country's trajectory toward a $5 trillion global economy. But this stagnant line at the bottom represents the millions who still rely on basic government ration cards just to stay afloat. Instead of closing as the nation generates more wealth, that gap is actually widening. As the top of the economy accelerates, the bottom is being left further behind, creating a deep internal divide over the most basic resources. The persistence of this gap raises a question about the very design of the system, and whether this poverty is a flaw to be fixed or a fuel that keeps the political machinery running. When a nation's energy is consumed by an internal struggle for survival, fighting over school seats, over hospital beds, and daily meals, it has very little strength left to compete on the global stage. To understand how this system works, we have to look at how poverty is managed and what happens to those trapped inside it as the artificial intelligence revolution begins to rewrite the rules of the global economy. For someone living in extreme poverty, the worldview naturally shrinks to the immediate. When you are worried about your next meal, long-term economic policies feel abstract. Instead, survival depends on localized identities, your caste, your religion, and your immediate surroundings. This vulnerability is easily exploited. By leaning into what is known as bead tantra or mob rule, individuals can be pushed into tribal conflicts that they would never participate in on their own. We see the physical reality of this manipulation in places like Manipur, where ethnic tensions are stoked to the point of violence, distracting from the systemic failures that affect everyone. This follows a recognizable pattern seen in the displacement of Kashmiri Pundits. By keeping the population in a state of constant friction, the focus remains on internal enemies rather than the lack of schools or hospitals. The physical result is chaos on the streets. When people are pushed into this mob mentality, they end up destroying the very infrastructure they need to escape their own desperation. This cycle ensures that voters remain dependent on short-term handouts. It guarantees that a population in survival mode will choose immediate pre-election freebies over the long-term infrastructure projects that would actually provide a way out. To keep this cycle moving, public institutions are often left to rot. Despite massive state budgets, like Bihar's 65,000 crore rupees for education, the quality of what is actually delivered to the poor remains consistently low. This creates a physical partition in the country. While the elite access highly funded private institutions, the majority are relegated to crumbling schools with peeling paint and missing teachers. This divide is even more dangerous in healthcare. Without reliable public hospitals, a single medical emergency can become a financial death sentence, forcing families to sell their land or pawn their jewelry just to pay for a bed. India has world-class doctors and diagnostic machines that can map tumors in 3D, but they are concentrated in a private sector that is economically invisible to the common citizen. When education and healthcare are treated as luxury commodities rather than rights, the system installs an impenetrable ceiling. It ensures that upward mobility remains impossible for anyone born on the wrong side of the divide. While these internal struggles continue, a much larger external force is arriving. The global artificial intelligence revolution is moving fast, and it doesn't wait for local systems to catch up. This has created a new kind of anxiety. With thousands of jobs already being shed in the IT sector, there is a growing fear that the traditional paths to the middle class are disappearing. India has felt this fear before. In 1985, the introduction of computers was met with protests and the belief that technology would permanently destroy the human workforce. But computers didn't eliminate jobs, they changed the nature of the work. The economy shifted, requiring people to learn to work alongside the new technology rather than competing against it. AI will likely follow the same path. Future jobs will require people who can manage and coordinate with AI, like doctors using automated mapping to perform more precise surgeries. But this transition requires a foundation that millions currently lack. It is difficult to prepare for a high-tech, collaborative future when your local school is crumbling and your family is one 35 rupee X-ray away from a financial crisis. The only way for the nation to navigate this shift is to dismantle the poverty engine. Success in the next decade depends entirely on closing the gap at the very bottom of the pyramid. We are already seeing proof that this can be done. Grassroots efforts are beginning to bypass the broken public system, providing high-quality education and medical diagnostics at costs that are actually accessible to everyone. When a person is freed from the constant anxiety of survival, when they no longer have to fear the cost of a doctor's visit or the debt of a daughter's wedding, their perspective changes. A mind that is no longer occupied by basic survival begins to look toward the future. It starts focusing on innovation, on starting a business, and on participating in the broader economy. If the foundational needs of its citizens are finally secured, the focus of 1.4 billion people shifts from survival to contribution. In the coming AI era, a workforce of that scale, finally unburdened, becomes the single most valuable resource on the planet.